I'm going to be dropping free game for you guys that a lot of people legit pay good money for. So stick around, trust me. You want to improve your aim, but you don't know where to start. I'm going to provide for you different ways you can measure your level of aim. Take into account how many hours you've played and what to do to get to the next step. We're obviously going to start off at the beginner level. This is a very broad level. It can be people who haven't touched a mouse or people who just play casually. If you hop on every now and then and play some games and you're tired of getting destroyed, this level is basically for you. Now, it can be really difficult understanding where to start, and I have a perfect 1-minute guide for you to understand the terms and reasoning behind different aim theories. But what you need to know right now is that you're basically doing everything wrong, and that's okay. That just means that whatever direction you decide to go in, you'll see improvement. It's important, however, to remember that improvement will slowly taper off over time, but that's for the advanced step. The first step you need to realize is what sort of resources you want to play around with. Do you spend time in Aimlabs, pay $10 for something like Kovaaks or Aimbeast, which offers more scenarios? Whatever option you play, free or paid, there's something called benchmarks. You play different scenarios and you get overall level and score. Here you can see if, example, your tracking is worse than your clicking and so on. And this gets really important later on. But more importantly than that, it offers a full playlist covering all aspects of aim. Something like voltaic benchmark for Kovaaks and built-in benchmarks for Aimlab and Aimbeast. I'd recommend doing these for a solid month before moving on to other playlists, options, and just exploring what your weaknesses are. Here's the period you find out what settings actually work for you. But be careful. For beginners, be careful not to mistake your score for your actual improvement. A lot of you might be optimizing the scenario to improve your score more so than focusing on getting better mouse control. But generally, finding out which scenarios you should be focusing on and what people to follow, like me. To summarize the beginner level, play benchmarks for a month, find your preferred settings and sensitivity, explore different scenarios and playlists. But with that being said, we're going to move on to the intermediate step, which is where most of you guys might be right now. I'm going to assume most of you guys have average aim. You do well in FPS shooters, but you're not satisfied. You want to get more out of your aim, and you spent some time in aim trainers, but maybe the trainers have gotten stale, or maybe you're not seeing the results you want to see. This one is surprisingly a lot simpler, and I'm going to lay it out for you guys. Step 1. Do what's called a VOD review, and review your in-game clips, not your aim training clips. You're looking for consistent patterns that happen often. Some common issues that plague players are just generally not hitting your shots. To solve this, first identify which part of your shot you're missing. The first couple of shots or the shots afterwards. If it's the initial couple of shots, probably has more to do with your static and your dynamic clicking. And if it's your shots afterwards, it's probably your reactive tracking more so than your smooth tracking, since you're failing to react to his change of movements rather than tracking it in one smooth motion. Step 2 is after you find the flaw, you want to be working on that obviously, but don't get too carried away. It's easy to see yourself failing in tracking and miss out everything else. I'd still recommend a complete playlist for you guys while focusing on your specific flaw areas, rather than playing a full playlist only specified against your flaws. If your flaw is reactive, for example, you might do 30 minutes of reactive, 10 minutes of smooth, and the rest is clicking. Step 3 is actually going to be diversifying your aim. So let's say you play CS and you want to get better at it, but CS doesn't just require good clicking. Any game, be it Quake, Battlefield, whatever, requires good mouse control. That's why you want to be trying to play different games. If you play COD and you're struggling with the clicking part, consider hopping on some Valorant. Consider playing some static, play a bit of Quake. Do playlists that are specified towards other games. I do Apex playlists all the time without actually playing the game. Don't be too afraid to experiment. This is where you actually find out more about your aim than anywhere else. Now hopefully you understand all of that, and it's time for the advanced part. What really separates an advanced user from an intermediate one is time. You might say that's a bad answer, but it's the truth. That being said, there are things we can do to spot our needs more accurately. here's where I'd really recommend starting to optimizing your actual setup. And I've actually made a video about this. You need to be testing out your own settings, seeing if you have your right mouse pad, if you're focused on speed, control, and so on. This is important because of one thing. You need to be squeezing all the performance out of your body as possible, and the step from an advanced to intermediate player is so minuscule that this really matters. Now that might be all well and good, but we need something to do. And by this time, you know your body, your weaknesses, and have a good foundation. You probably already know what you need to do. It's about personalizing your playlist and needs to yourself. But most advanced users already do that. To truly be an advanced user, you need to realize and think just like a beginner. You've put so much time into this that you think you know everything. Yet you're rewatching your clips and thinking they're not good enough. That's for a reason, because you're not there yet. If your aim isn't flawless, you're not advanced yet. If you truly think you're an advanced aimer, you need to see how many good solid highlights you get, and if you think your highlights are good, I'd recommend comparing them to other top aimers in your game. If you play CS, compare your aim to Scream. If you play Apex, Asu and Soar Hollow. Overwatch, XQC. It's mainly a mentality change, specifying your specific flaws and fine-tuning your aim rather than improving your overall aim. And for those who have stayed into the end, I'll let you in on a little secret. 90% of what's keeping intermediate players from becoming advanced is speed.